It's the Fairway Times podcast presented by Wild Goat. Somewhere around hole 12, golf turns into a different sport. The body's still there, but the brain is suddenly checking emails, replaying that trip on 7, and wondering what's for dinner. And that's the problem, because most golfers don't lose the round from a bad swing. They lose it when their attention wavers. Some people try and fix that with coffee or an energy drink, which is bold because nothing says commit to this delicate wedge shot like a racing heartbeat and trembling hands. That's where Wild Goat comes in. Their Focus Plus Hydration Gummy was built for golf, not for deadlifts, not for your wife's spin class, and not for people named Chad doing burpees in the parking lot, specifically for golf. It's got alpha GPC and cognizin to help keep your mind sharp, a dialed in amount of caffeine plus L-theanine for smooth, steady energy, and electrolytes to help you stay hydrated and locked in through all 18 holes. So instead of feeling fried by the back nine, you actually feel present, calm, and clear, like a person who might finally make a good decision with a club in their hand. Go to getwildgoat.com and use code FairwayTimes10 for 10% off your entire order. That's getwildgoat.com. And now, before your focus drifts too, let's get into the show.
Waited for years. Many doubted we'd ever see it. But here it is. The return to glory.
This is the Fairway Times. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fairway Times podcast. I'm super excited to be back, and today we are bringing you a guest. Amanda, welcome to the show. Amanda works in golf fitness at probably the highest level you can work. So let's just start off. Amanda, introduce yourself. Talk about how we met. What is your background in all this? How did you get started? Give us the entire story.
Yeah. Hey, Colton. Thank you so much for having me. Like you said, my name's Amanda. I recently graduated with my master's from Oklahoma State University. Go Pokes. So let's start from the beginning, how I kind of got into golf. It was pretty late, actually. Sophomore year of high school, I wasn't super competitive right when I started. I started on a JV team. Tennis is my number one sport, and there's a little bit of a transfer there. We can talk about that in a bit, but I really just had a natural ability with the golf swing, and significant ankle injury ended my tennis career. So from there, I just went full force into golf and had great success. Was pulled up to varsity at the end of the first JV season, and just had great success. I mean, on the team, I was building so much confidence, and from there led to golf college opportunities. So I went on to play at Saginaw Valley State University, which is a D2 school in Michigan. Played all 4 years there. Had a great experience. We were a newer program, like 5 years old, and we really built a lot from there. And I'd say my love for fitness really grew there with the team. I found myself sometimes preferring to go to the morning workouts actually than going to the range and hitting a bunch of balls. So that's really where my love for golf fitness truly started, and led me to actually pursue a golf research study on my golf team, both the men's and women's side, looking at a club head speed warm-up strategy. So we looked at hex bar deadlift. Some of you might be familiar with using that in the gym, but it was a really, quick, easy study, whether the hex bar, helped warm you up more muscle, like type 2 muscle fibers, which are your deeper, like power muscles, before swinging the golf club versus, going in cold, or, just doing sort of like a stretching, different type of warm up. And there was an increase with the hex bar, which was pretty cool. And that really sparked my interest in the golf research physiology world, really, and led to me going to Oklahoma State University, where I was a graduate research assistant for the Golf Research Innovation Performance Center, where we worked with both men's and women's golf teams here, conducting performance assessments, running different studies, questions that we asked or were curious about, and um, just having this huge database of players, um, of elite player, one of the best schools in the nation, and being able to um, analyze their data. We weren't directly training them. We were more of the sports science, or I played more of a sports science role, communicating to the coaches, the strength coaches, players, like, hey, this is what your data is showing, and, telling the strength coach, like, maybe some recommendations of what that athlete can do.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And I
yeah.
think I'll just stop you there because you're not going to toot your own horn, but I will. Amanda just casually glossed over that, yes, she was a part of the team of one of the best collegiate golf programs of all time. And she was one of the people that was engineering the movement program in the background, which is just like a very casual gloss over. So, like, this is one of the most high level people you're ever going to hear talk about golf
Thank you.
movement and kinesthetic within every topic of golf movement. So I'll toot your own horn there if you are not, because that is something definitely not to gloss over. So I'll kind of put a little background into how Amanda and I met.
Mhm.
So we both are very fortunate to have the opportunity to both be coaches at a very exclusive Callaway junior golf event, and that is how we met. She was the physio, and is that the right term? Can I call it physio, or is it
Um,
strength coach?
Probably like performance specialist.
Okay, so she was the specialist. I was the sports psych, and we kind of just immediately hit it off. When we first met, I was just finishing up pretty much my first job out of college as a assistant athletic director, but part of that was I was the director of all performance. So part of that was me running the weight room. So I was always curious about lifting as well. I liked lifting more in college than I actually liked playing baseball, which looking back now makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
So we kind of went down the same path in that regard. And so specifically talk about like, what is it like of training somebody that is playing at Oklahoma at the highest level versus, your regular country club 35-year-old guy that's trying to go from a 7 to a 2 handicap? Like, what are we really seeing
Yeah.
in massive differences? Let's kind of just start there.
Yeah, no, great question. And this is something where I do have to kind of, understand who I'm working with, right? Like, um, the collegiate player is probably, just more well-rounded athletically, where they are a little bit younger. Um, but you'd be surprised how much mobility is still lacking in both groups. So honestly, those are pretty similar. I see with the college players, they're very tight still, but they're stronger, they're more powerful, and that is basically the biggest differences. With your, 30, 50-year-old golfer who's going out, they they may or may not be going to the gym. Um, so with them, we're really starting on the basics, right? We need to build a strong foundation, and that starts with mobility and stability. So I first run through like an assessment where I would, assess like where they're at, mobility, stability, strength, power wise. But with anyone like that, they're just going to be needing to start with a mobility stability program.
What do you feel like the biggest misconception is when golfers first come to you?
I think what the biggest misconception would be that they're going to get crazy good at golf. And that's just probably not going to happen, right? I'm I'm going to help what already you have developed skill-wise in your swing, and just make you a stronger player physically and even mentally, right? In the gym, that you can train that side as well. Um, but I I'm not there to be your technical mechanical coach, right? I understand the swing, so I think that can set me apart in the fitness world. Um, but the gym is meant to be a place to get better, performance and prevent injury. Those are the two key things I see coming out of the gym.
What do you think makes golf more physically demanding than people give it credit for?
Yeah, this is a great question, and a lot of people don't realize how physically demanding the sport is. With coming from junior, high school, collegiate, professional, even amateur. If you're walking, right, you're pushing or you're carrying a bag, can walk up to 10 to 12 miles a day. Um, Obviously longer with like 36 hole rounds. Um, but you're out on the course for 5 hours, in the heat, and that just puts a toll on your body. Golf swing aside, right? When we add in the golf swing, it's such a rotational or a explosive dynamic movement that you're putting so much torque and power into it over and over and over again, depending on what you're shooting. And that adds up over time, right? So it is a very physically demanding sport that people, I don't think, realize.
So, when I was playing baseball in college and you were playing golf in college, your trainers probably specifically knew what was coming in, right? With baseball, all of us, it's the arm, the elbow, right? The trainers are experts in massaging out the elbow, the shoulder, right? Just very, very
Yes.
common things. What is that equivalent in golf, and how can we address it in the weight room?
Yeah, that it's always back. It's always back. I've not it's very rare I come across a golfer who hasn't had some sort of nagging back or hip slight pain, right or left, and wrist is the other common one. But I do believe these are very preventable, and the one thing, I mean, that causes these is overuse, right? These golfers are not recovering properly. Number one, well, maybe number two. The first side is getting your body right, right? So they with back injuries, right? It's usually the glutes is where it comes from, right? If your glutes aren't activating, they're weak, you're going to be overusing a lot of muscles in your back, in your low back specifically, that are going to get a lot of load, um, just in that rotational movement of the swing, obviously, that just puts so much stress on the spine if our glutes are weak, and even our abs, right? Those are the two key muscle groups I really harp on, for golfers. And then the wrist, if we're just kind of flipping a lot, getting into bad sequencing patterns,
Story of my golf career. Yes.
the wrist, um, and overuse, right? So those patterns just being repeated without anything changing or happening, or you're not strengthening. So I do believe these are very preventable if you have the right, strength coach, the right amount of recovery, and the right sequencing.
So I think so. The question I had written down for you was, how does a lack of mobility versus a lack of strength show up differently in someone's swing? But
Hmm.
I kind of want to ask you in a different way now, because
Hmm.
you and I both work with a lot of junior athletes, and the number one thing parents are obsessed with is hitting it farther. And
Yeah.
I think everybody in the world right now is obsessed with hitting it farther. Talk about that epidemic and why you probably do not care at all.
Yeah, you're right. That is a large epidemic. And one that is, I, this might be a bold statement, but potentially like the demise or you know, we're just seeing so many back injuries happening and from the junior high school, college, like I said, it's hard to come across someone who doesn't have back pain, and this is because of they're chasing speed too early, I think, or their body isn't physically ready to take on that amount of power, right? The rotational um explosive torque that your spine goes through. If you're not if your joints are not ready for that type of movement and your muscles can't handle your joints and bones moving in those patterns, then like obviously you're going to get back pain. Um, so I would just tell people, yes, you can get faster, but there is a sequence that you need to follow. And it's going to take time, but if you're patient, you can play this game longer without injury. And I would say it's so worth it in the end.
Yeah, and I didn't really get preached this until college because in baseball, the equivalent is how hard you throw, right? And that's the world I came from. And this is an obsessive topic until you get to college, and all of a sudden the coach doesn't care once you're there and uses the term the best playability is availability. If you are not available, it doesn't matter. None of this matters. If you're missing a ton of tournaments where college coaches are out there and you're getting the opportunity to get noticed in golf, you're just not out there. And so that's the bottom line. And I think when I talk to college coaches, there are instances where they're looking for a kid that they can mold that can hit the ball a long way. But the rankings and the kids are getting so good now that it's just going out there and being able to shoot scores and showing them that you're mentally tough. And they know that most likely that kid is going to develop and grow a little bit versus
Yeah.
being obsessed with club head speed.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so let's talk about our everyday average Joes, what you and I are in terms of nowadays our golf careers, which
Yep.
is if a golfer can only commit, 1 to 2 days a week, I'm sure you and I might be in the weight room more than that. But let's talk to the 35-year-old right now with 2 kids that loves playing golf. They have 1 to 2 days a week to get in the gym. What are the non-negotiables that can just kind of integrate in with their normal workout that they're going to find helpful for their golf game?
Yeah, I think if we're getting a little more golf specific, that term, tread lightly with that, but um I think they definitely need to have a 10 to 15 minute solid warm up routine that includes I love foam rollers. I love foam rollers. If you have a foam roller at your gym or your house, if it's at the house, foam roll 5 minutes. Um, your whole body really, like, from your calves, glutes, back, lats, everything. Foam rollers are great soft tissue tools. So spend time doing that, and then once you're done with that, I think really activating glutes and core and your back muscles before getting into any sort of lifting or accessory work. Those muscles should be activated a little bit before you go squat, because that's just going to benefit your squat in the end. You're not going to get too fatigued with a 3 by 10 of a lightweight monster walk, which is like, I do have it here, like a band like this where you're putting it around your ankles, um, something like that, like just to get your outside glutes activated, and then something with the core. And then from there, doing some, like a few mobility routine. Nothing no stretching, like 30-second holds. You do that after the workout, but this is more dynamic, getting kind of your hips mobile, like a 90-90. I'm going to say some terms that might be hard to explain if you're not able to like visually see it, but um
Feel
like
free to
hip
put this
angle,
transcript into your AI, everybody, and have it illustrate you some photos or bring up some YouTube videos.
yeah,
90/90s.
90-90 hip stretch, or like a Spider-Man series where you're bringing your you're in like a plank position and you're bringing your right leg up to your right arm, kind of getting into that deep stretch there, and then kind of doing like an open book, getting your T-spine warm. But I'd say hips and spine for mobility before workout, and then you can jump in. So those are the non-negotiables, I would say, for the 2 days a week.
Okay, so let's talk about the bulk, the meat and potatoes of like the actual strength part, which
Mhm.
is movement patterns. Are we prioritizing rotational power? Are we prioritizing increasing our squat over time? Like, what do you like to see for the average, your just average client that just wants to work with you to get more fit and also see their golf performance increase as a byproduct, which you and I know is it's kind of all relative in you and I's field because there's a lot that goes into this, but giving them, we'll use the term giving them the best chance of success.
Yeah. So giving them the best chance of success, how I usually structure my workouts is going through that routine I kind of just explained with the foam roller, activating those muscles, and then doing some mobility. And then I actually like to do a few sets of power exercises before we get into a strength. Um, and I don't recommend this for everybody if they're just starting out on a program, because before we can do power, we do need to develop a strong strength foundation. But this is just a good kind of well-rounded workout that I'm going to explain here, that people can do. So once we get the warm up done, we're just going to do like 3 sets, 5 reps of box jumps, right? This don't have to be super high box jumps, but just to sort of get, yourself moving off the ground, and the rest is actually very key for power exercises. Like 2 to 3 minutes, it's gonna feel like a century, but a lot of, your average gym goers don't realize how important the rest time is, for strength or power movements. But this is just going to help you kind of reset and get the most out of your muscles each set. It's like a 3 by 5, resting 2 to 3 minutes between those sets on a box jump. And then another rotational one that I would do is, or sorry, power move I would do is a kettlebell swing. So like moderate heavy. And then here we can do another like 3 by 5 or 6 reps. So with power, we're shorter reps, but these are very fast, explosive movements with your rest. So you're able to get the most out of the power and speed with those. Once you're done with those 2 reps, our exercises, we're going to go into the strength part of our workout. And this is like the main meat and potatoes that um, I just love this kind of strength side of it. So I like to usually pick out like 2 main lifts for the day. So this one we're gonna say is more of a leg focused day. So we're gonna pick out. I prefer front squatting over back squatting. You can back squat if you prefer, but back squat just kind of um, can put some more stress on your spine. So kind of play around with
Are you
that.
saying, Amanda, that a male in their 30s should acquire a new skill in front squat? Is that what you're suggesting right now? I just would like to make that clear for everybody that this could be difficult for people, but you're no longer playing linebacker on your JV high school team that you still talk about. You might need to learn how to front squat. Talk more about it.
Yeah. Front squatting is my favorite lift. It it it's a great core strengthening. It tests your wrist mobility, so a lot of people are limited in the wrist. They can actually do a cross um, bar, so you're holding the bar kind of across your chest and your elbows are out in front of you, and that's completely fine. But this is just going to help you. Your posterior chain actually gets worked quite a bit here because you're forced to stay in a tall, upright posture, right? We can't be arched down. The weight's going to want to pull you forward, but you have to stay tall, really brace your core. And it's great for the legs, glutes, right? And just putting less stress on the spine. Um, so along with front squat, I would choose like an RDL exercise. You can do single leg or barbell, either one, dumbbell or barbell. And these are probably going to be 3 to 4 sets, anywhere between 8 to 12 reps, I would say, for just starting out in the workout program. Um, Obviously, the reps can change depending on your goals for the program, right? If we go lower reps, we're really focusing on strength training, and then hypertrophy is a little bit more higher reps, kind of building the muscle and endurance a little bit more. So I'd pick those two lifts, right? Where we're not doing them together, so it's not like a superset. You're gonna do them separately. And then from there, I would pick um I'd probably pick 2 more strength exercises, and these would be more of your accessories. So, like, if you have a I like machines sometimes. They can be good for, really focusing on muscle groups, but they can also hinder you when you're really trying to focus on understanding your whole body and how it moves. So, there's a difference between closed chain and open chain movements. Um, and so that difference is like a lunge, for example, right? If we want to work the quad, we can use this. We're using our feet into the ground. We're holding dumbbells on our side, and it's getting our spine engaged, our core is engaged, and you are activating your quad muscle, right? That front leg muscle. Um, and I like that better than just a simple leg extension where you're sitting down and you're isolating that muscle group, which is good too, but just not as a dynamic movement as a lunge would be. So I'd probably pick a lunge, and then maybe a calf raise, I would say. Um, and then if you have time, this is probably stretching an hour, I would say, but getting in a little bit of core and then finishing with a little bit of a stretch at the end. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay, so I want to go back a little bit to the RDL section, and I wanted to get your opinion because 24-hour fitnesses all over the country have got these amazing new hip thrust machines. I'm embarrassed to say that
Ooh.
I am on these suckers where you strap in, and these machines are excellent. I mean, I suck at hip
Um,
thrusts. I also don't want to set that up next to the 16-year-old girls in the gym. So I'm just going to hop on this hip thrust machine. What do you think of those suckers? Because I like doing them once in a while instead of RDLs because RDLs just get me so sore. I know they're better for me.
yeah,
I know I'm getting into a proper hinge, but they just get me super sore if I'm going to walk around the next day. What do you think of these
yeah.
new machines, and should more of us be hopping on these?
I do love a hip thrust machine, I will say. Um, I think this can be put on a a different day of the workout because I still do love an RDL, and I'm going to lean towards the single leg RDL, right?
The
A
difficult
lot of
one for all
single
of
leg
us.
yeah, a lot of single leg exercises are great for golfers, right? Because you have to learn how to use your weight in different feet, different parts of your swing. Um and really like planting it. It's a good balancing exercise. So I still love an RDL. I do love a hip thrust though as well. So if you're gonna do one or the other, it's a toss up. But if we're more golf focused, I like the RDL, single leg.
Okay. Um, how talk about your assessment process and how a normal person's injury history should really get built into this whole equation.
Yeah. So with an assessment, coming from the golf background, swing knowledge, I actually like to look at their swing first and just see what they're doing right now. What's their tendencies in their swing? Um, Maybe like what's the miss? What are they doing? And that just kind of helps me point out what I can look for in the following screen. So after I look at the swing, we're gonna go into a mobility screen, and I'm gonna look at the key joints. So this is ankle, right and left hip differences, thoracic spine, shoulders, and your neck. So there's 5 key areas there that I'm gonna measure with a goniometer, which is like a measuring stick or a measuring device. It's gonna give me a degree number that I can, use and assess as we progress. From there, we're gonna do a strength assessment, which I do grip strength, so a hand dynamometer, and this actually has a good correlation with club head speed. So right and left hand grip, I'm gonna do a Palloff press, which is if you're holding like in a static isometric position, your arm straight out, you're resisting the rotation of your core. So it's a great oblique strength test. And this is used with a dynamometer device, measuring device that's just going to give me a force or a strength output number. So we can sort of see asymmetries if you have them on the right or left. And then going into sort of the power, differentiating between a squat jump and a counter movement jump. This is where it gets a little bit more scientific-y, but we're looking at the stretch shortening cycle, which is when your muscles, they have this pre-stretch before they contract, right? And the better you are at sort of using that pre-stretch, the more power you're going to be able to get out. But if we sort of take that pre-stretch out and um, just see how you do with just the contraction side, we can sort of isolate that into a strength measure. So that would be the squat jump versus the counter movement jump, where you're throwing up your hands, you're throwing them down, and then you're getting up all that you can. That is more of a power number that we would want to get or see. Um, with a power assessment as well, we would look at a club head speed number, um, and a sort of rotational med ball throw distance. And we either do a rotational one or like a throwing chest press one, just seeing how far they can throw it. So not not crazy much. It might have sounded like it was a lot, but if you narrow down, it's about 3 strength, 3 power, 5 mobility, in the assessment.
And so you have, at this point, you've worked with guys that we're going to be watching on Sunday at some point, or already are. And we used to have this term just called, at some point, you're always wanting to improve, but metric wise, you're strong enough. AKA, there's a problem somewhere else, right? Like
Uh,
if, you're a guy that genetically throws 85 miles an hour and you are strong enough, quote unquote, there, you're never strong enough, but for the movement, you're strong enough before you're getting large and other, if different factors are occurring. There's probably a mobility issue or an injury issue, which was my problem in college. My arm was jello and I had a mobility problem, right? My hip mobility sucked. So I think everybody would be interested to know of like the top guys that you've worked with, like what is strong enough in golf? What are these top guys like squatting? And it's probably dependent on each guy, but what are you seeing that's really having success? Is it 225 at the Division I collegiate level? Is there a number? Is there a common thread you see? And once again, we know all these guys are different, but is there kind of a thing that you've seen in certain lifts that can predict success at all?
um, certain lifts, we don't have the exact numbers that they're lifting, and they actually never max out. So I don't even think that they know their maxes. They're always kind of lifting in like the 3 to 4 to 6 rep range. Um, and I'd say what kind of I've noticed is the best golfers on the team are kind of the most well-rounded, right? They're not the best at any one thing. Like, they're not the most powerful, they're not the strongest, they're not the most mobile, but kind of like you said, like, it's enough, like, in all areas. So they're not lacking in the specific area that is gonna prevent them from succeeding out on the course.
Okay, what do you think? So let's say somebody's listening to this podcast for the first time. They're like, hey, I'm not sure I'm ready to work with someone like Amanda yet, but I want to look more into this. Like, what are your favorite resources? What are your favorite YouTube channels that talk about this? Like, where can people really dive in and just kind of build themselves something to start with before they're going to full all out work with somebody like you?
Yeah, no, I mean, TPI is a great database. I'm TPI certified there. I did one of their certs, and just they're obviously like the golf performance leaders in the industry. They have a great kind of solid performance website where you can get a bunch of information on. They produce articles, and if you're really interested in, getting into the fitness side, I mean, just reading up on, I mean, I hate to say, like, research articles, like Golf Science Journal is always coming out top articles that, yeah, it might be a little more scientific-y, not full performance, but they do have some performance, papers out there that are gonna be truly research-backed evidence, that you're gonna find. So I'd say, um, yeah, TPI is obviously gonna be number 1, though.
Let's talk a little bit about, okay, so now, 25, 30 years from now, I'm old, I'm washed up, I still love golf. I preach this to my future father-in-law, my father, grandparents, etc. How much impact can walking 18 holes, if you play a lot of golf instead of taking the cart, truly have a positive impact on your health?
Yeah, that is, I mean, walking in general is great, and if you can use golf as an excuse to do that, that's even better, I think. It can be hard for people to get active, but I do believe golf has really helped that sense of, people wanting to go out and get competitive with their friends, and not only just the physical, right, walking aspect, that the benefits that you're going to get from that, but from the mental side of just being with a community of people, and getting back into your competitiveness, and really, like, it's just a great, I think it's just a great way for people of all ages to really um help with their longevity in life.
Okay, so we always ask people on this podcast, talk about your own game. Where is it at now? What are you struggling with? Relate with the common man for us. How much are you getting to practice? What does Amanda's golf game look like?
Yeah, so after I graduated, from college, or put the clubs down from college, I did take a year off, but I picked them back up, and I've honestly been hitting it a lot better than I did my senior year, because I think I'm just a little bit more free out there, the pressure isn't getting to me, so, um but I'm really struggling with my short game, putting and chipping. I'm I'm still kind of three putting, and stabbing at my chips from time to time. But since I've been working on my mobility a lot more, um, the golf swing is just so much easier for me. Even when I played in college, like, I didn't think about mobility at all. I was only focused on the strength and power, but now that I'm, been out of the game, and kind of researching it, and understanding the body more, that mobility is really just the key. So because I've been working on that more, I just feel so much better in my game and my swing.
Are you keeping a handicap right now? Are you planning to play competitive at all at an amateur level? What is the plan there?
I don't have a handicap right now, but I will be entering in some amateur tournaments here coming up soon. Don't know exactly the timeline on that, but I do have an edge to get back into the competitive space for sure.
And another thing we like to explore a lot on this is we're equipment junkies. So if you know off the top of the head, let's run down what is in Amanda's bag.
Yeah, my bag is driver. I have the TaylorMade Sim 2, and 3-wood is also TaylorMade. And then I have Titleist T200 irons. I do want to get new irons. They're about 6 years old, probably way out of date. So I think I'm gonna need some new irons. And then I play Vokey wedges, which I love, but those might be need to be replaced as well. And then I have a TaylorMade uh, putter, which has been the demise of my game. So I might need to replace that too.
Might be time to go down the rabbit hole in Roger Dunn, different putters. Am I claw gripping? What am I doing with my life? We've kind of
Yeah.
all been there. Okay, how can everybody that's listening and eventually reading this article, how can they find you? How can they work with you?
Yeah, so right now I'm on Instagram. It's at Amanda_EHRL. I am working on launching a website so people can kind of sign up to train with me online in person. But as of right now, if you're interested, send me a DM, ask me a question, whatever it is, and I'll respond on Instagram.
Love it. Well, Amanda, thank you so much for coming on. And everybody, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Fairway Times. That's the pod. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Like to hit bombs.
I do.
That is,
There's a lot more to winning than just, hitting bombs.
You saw him dropping all kinds of bombs off the tee. I mean, just hellacious bombs.
I have to have the ability to hit bombs. We talk about it. You got to hit long out here. Hit bombs. Todd, when I stop hitting bombs, I'll play the Champions Tour, but I'm hitting some crazy bombs.
Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Remember to hit bombs, and I will see you next time.